Once upon a time, there was a story that changed my life. It showed me hope, inspired a lot of my creative works. It influenced my world in a way and brought fairy tales and magic, hope and belief into my life in new ways. I've always been inspired by fairy tales, and it wasn't until a couple weeks after the initial premiere that I started watching Once Upon a Time, and it's about time that I told the tale of what the show means to me, even if it's a video that's at least 7 years in the making. Before Once Upon a Time, I never really kept up with a TV show, but I was just instantly so into it. And I remember coming home from school one day and my mom had said, okay, there's this really great show, your aunt recommended it to me, and I watched a couple episodes and it's going to sound kind of crazy, so I'm not really going to be able to explain it, but it's about these fairy tale characters, and we'll give it a go. If you like it, we can keep watching. If you don't, we could just stop, it's fine. And I watched it, and episode after episode, I was just so into it. There's only a few at that point, but I just remember I was instantly hooked, pun intended. I've been straight up terrified of making this video for a really long time, and today is the day, so here this goes. Once Upon a Time was the first TV show that I actually kept up with, and it actually came out during my freshman year of high school, and it is so incredibly crazy to think about just all of the ways that's impacted my life ever since, as I'm about to be a senior in college. Yes, I've been watching once every single week, but on top of that, when it started off when I was in high school, it kind of became a weekly schedule where I would watch the show on Sunday, and on Monday I'd talk about it with all my friends at school, and then Tuesday I'd meet up with the people that I could talk with on Monday and then talk about it. And then Wednesday, there'd be new promos. Thursday, there's a whole lot of memes. So then Friday, there would be another promo, and I'd be talking about that. And then on Saturday, I would actually make a homemade apple pie every now and then with my mom, and then we would actually be able to have that pie and as a family watch once on Sunday. The show itself has inspired me so much and in so many different ways, and as you guys probably already know, I do a lot of cool things, and I've been doing a lot of the same cool things just on different levels since early high school, around the same time when the show began. So on the filmmaking side, I'd always taken so much account to just, you know, the costuming, the acting, the production, the design, the cinematography, all of the details, the editing, the music, just every little detail about it. And I want to learn so much about the production side as well, because it's just so fascinating to see how every single week they're basically able to put together an episode that was a borderline mini movie that was so fantastical and so well put together. And I'm going to talk about the writing in itself just a while later, but even that part of the aspect of the filmmaking experience for the show was just so incredibly inspiring. And seeing all these stories being twisted in new, different ways was really cool, especially at a time where I felt like a lot of stories kind of were structured the same way. And I was inspired by seeing how even the same stories could be structured in such a new and creative way. And I think that really fueled a lot of my creativity, even on the filmmaking side, and a lot of my early works, including my works now. Just I was working on some random short films and things like that that I really enjoyed, and different commercials and smaller projects, and I think through doing that, there was definitely a lot of impact from the show itself. On the acting side, I had always really loved acting as well, but it was one of those things that I had a very interesting experience with really starting off, and I think something that really grew when I was getting more into acting in high school was really just the pure fact that I was very inspired by the actors on the show. I mean, especially for just seeing the entire character arc for Regina, like that was truly iconic. That was really something, especially when it changed over from being, you know, like Regina's first season was a character that nobody wanted to mess with, like nobody liked her, she was causing a lot of issues, and the fact that that was able to, in a relatively short amount of time, take such a turn. There's so many layers to these characters that I think see that and seeing the world building and the character building and how different things influence, and just all of that was just really, really cool to see on the acting side. And I still have taken so much away from that on a personal level that it has definitely made me way more confident in my acting and learned so much more in the process. I've also, in high school, worked on a lot of different art projects, as in a lot of art classes, and a lot of my artworks were actually inspired by the show. So even for that, I remember being inspired. I remember talking to people literally during my art class about the show and everything, and everyone knew it was the show that I really enjoyed to watch. But most of all, the writing is truly, truly, truly such a big part of how the show shaped me. And I think something really interesting about it is the fact that the writing has always been really strong on the show. And it's just, there's so much. There's a lot of characters, there's a lot of plot twists, there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot to take into account from just everything else that's just going on in general in the world, and being able to bring so much together and really make it such a powerful show about hope and magic and family and all of that, just, and so much more. Like, there has been so much into this, and there's been so many interesting twists and turns, and we've all been on this journey for so many years, and the fact that it's kept up over all those years has been truly, truly inspiring. And I've always considered myself a writer. Writing was one of those top things that I realized I really loved right from the beginning, and it actually spiraled more into directing and acting and all of that. That came a little bit later, but it started with writing. And the writing of the show itself has been very inspiring. I've always really loved fairy tales, but it actually wasn't until a couple years into high school, so the show had been going for a couple years, that I actually wrote my first fairy tale. It was my first novel. It is published. You can check out Amazon, iBooks, all that good stuff. I'll put all the links below. Actually, I always do, so check it out. But just the idea of being able to create a fairy tale of my own was something that I've always really wanted to do. And I was very inspired to do that, especially around that time where there's so much, and being so invested in watching the show, like, of course it influenced me, and it influenced not necessarily my story, but definitely the fact that I could create a fairy tale and people of any age could enjoy it. And that was really, really cool to see. And just to be able to have that story. And the weirdest thing now, that all these years later, is that this story isn't just a book to me. And, like, the Royalty Status trilogy was, you know, supposed to be just a story that just kind of came to me. And I know I'm literally sounding like Henry right now, but it turned into a story that not only came to me at the right time, in the right place, in the right way, but has really evolved into my life. Like, when I wrote it, it was just kind of this random blurb of, you know, fiction. I'm just writing a fairy tale, right? And it's honestly become my life. And that's so crazy. Like, it's so weird to see how many weird parallels between my story to begin with to now. And the book is just absolutely incredible. And being able to see that transition has truly brought the magic, like in the show, to my life to begin with. So it's been really, really a great experience, and I had to mention it for the sake of this. Another thing that I remember doing in high school is, with a friend, I was actually working on original Once Upon a Time episodes. We had our own characters, we had our own situations. Actually, I remember specifically going through and kind of noting other people that we knew throughout the school and being like, oh, they look like them, they look like them. And suddenly it was like, you know, our high school was comparison. Another really cool thing that happened in high school was I went on a field trip to New York City with being a part of band. And that particular time, literally on the way, the Once Upon a Time cast was actually on Good Morning America. And I thought that was the coolest thing because they're so close, right? Like, and that was such a crazy concept for me at the time. I was just so overwhelmed. It was so unreal. Just being able to see the same studio they were in just a couple hours earlier. It was just really cool, and I liked that, and it was fun. And of course, I kept up with all the social media and everything, especially on Twitter. I actually did get a tweet liked by Rebecca Mader and also Beverly Elliott, so that was really cool. For my birthday one year, my brother Adam was actually getting a bunch of shout outs on Twitter to actually wish me a happy birthday, and one of the people who got to shout me out on my birthday was Adam Horowitz, who's one of the creators, and that was literally so crazy and so sweet of him to be able to like do that for me. But like, that was just a really cool moment, and I just really enjoyed all these little connections within my life and the show that just carried on for 7 years. The moment of all moments, the trip of all trips, was when my family and I went to Storybrooke. Going to Storybrooke was one of the most craziest experiences and one of the coolest trips ever, because I was able to have that moment where I felt that I was in the show. And it's one thing to watch a show with your family, but it's another thing to feel like you're in it with your family, and be able to just walk around Steveston was so cool. They weren't actually filming out and about. They're in the studios during that time, and we were only there for a couple days, but I thought it was just one of the most crazy cool experiences to be able to see these filming locations in person, in real life. It was so cool. Like, I walked around the town, I saw everything. We went to various different locations because they use filming locations that are pretty far spread out. Like, all the houses are pretty far away in comparison to where all of the wood scenes are done, and then where the actual town is, and then the dock is close to the town, so that made sense. But it was interesting just being able to learn more on the production side just from being there. But I had hot chocolate with cinnamon at Granny's, and it was so cool. And I walked around Gold Shop, and there was an M&M list there, and I thought we were going to be back, so I'm still a little bit salty that I didn't get, because when we did come back, they were all sold out. It is a small town, so they weren't getting another shipment in for a while. So yeah, that happened. And it was just a lot of fun though, and being able to go around and walk down the middle of the street at the middle of the night and then realize that was probably a dangerous move, but I did just for the sake of the show, was really neat. There's a really great place actually next to Gold Shop called Dave's Fish and Chips, and Dave's Fish and Chips are so good, and it was just funny going there and being able to sit there one night just straight up eating amazing fish and chips, looking out the window and seeing the town and seeing the library and where the clock tower kind of sort of is and isn't. And it was so surreal, and it was such an interesting experience that I really loved, and I look back on that trip so much, and it was just truly magical. But then I graduated from high school and I started up college, and I felt like I really did enter a whole new realm, because I moved from upstate New York all the way over to sunny LA to study film, which is funny because just recently there's an episode, I promise I'm not spoiling anything, but a young Henry was talking to Regina about being maybe interested in literally studying film in LA, and yeah, you bet I was freaking out. There's been so many little moments within the show like that that have been kind of like oddly satisfyingly connecting to my life, sometimes within that same week time span, that is just totally crazy. I thought that just being in college, being busy, being in LA, so much to do, that I wouldn't be able to really keep up with the show as much as I used to. And in some regards to keeping up with all the online stuff and the memes, that was kind of true, at least at first. But what actually took a great turn was the fact that I became more involved with the show in ways that I never thought were even possible before. The first year I actually started up a viewing club. It didn't last very long because everybody else got busy, and apparently there were other freshmen guys who wanted to watch a lot of sports at the one TV that the entire building had. So yeah, it was difficult to maintain, but I still kept updated with watching the show every single week. I got more people into it. It actually became my go-to. One of the top things anyone would learn about me was the fact that I did watch the show, which I didn't even realize. I think someone pointed it out to me. They're like, you ask everybody this. So I was like, yes I do. But a lot of random things happen in regards to meeting people who are a part of it, and that has been one of the most coolest things that I could possibly explain. On the way back home for Thanksgiving break last year, I actually casually was standing in line at TSA at LAX with Sean McGuire, who's Robin Hood, and it was the funniest thing because I was just looking at him like, I'm pretty sure you're Robin Hood, but like mentally I was just remembering thinking like, so familiar. Pretty sure you're Robin Hood, but like I didn't believe it. And what was really cool was the fact he was about to go to a convention to talk about Once Upon a Time out in Chicago, and there was an article that actually came out during that where he was mentioning how the really cool things is when it kind of gets recognized, and just like, hey, the show means a lot to me. And you know, it's like, thank you for being a part of it. That was borderline. I'm not saying this was about me, but also the timing is a little too close for it to kind of maybe have that chance, and that was just a really cool moment. I'm not going to go into big detail on how this went down, because that in itself is quite the story. Last May I had an audition, and I ended up, after that audition, walking about a mile to Walt Disney Studios, and I ended up attending part of the Once Upon a Time musical screening, and it was such a cool moment because I really did not expect that to be able to happen. But then when it did, it was crazy. It was so cool. I was in the same exact room as both of the showrunners, and Snow and Charming, and the musicians and composers of that particular episode, and so many other cool people. I actually got featured the Oh My Disney video that came out about that, and just being able to be there was so incredible to begin with. And afterwards I went on over and I did talk to composers, I got a cool photo, and I also talked to Eddie and Adam, and I remember actually saying, because I did show up a little late because of the audition, I do remember actually saying, sorry I'm late, just to quote back to the first episode, which is such a me thing that I've done. But I was able to thank him in person for being able to carry on the show and be so inspiring along, just having the show come to life and have such an impact on my life. And it was cool to actually have that moment on the Disney lot, and it was just such a crazy experience that I still cannot believe actually happened. What's also been really incredible is my friend Ava, who we've been going and we've been interviewing so many different people at so many different events, but she knows that I really love watching the show, and has actually reached out about making sure that I have the opportunity to actually talk to some of the people who are involved with it. And while I may have missed Comic-Con last year, where she was actually in the press room talking to so many cool ones people I'm just still kind of freaking out about, I did send a lot of messages that day. So I asked some questions early. Anyway, side note, what's been really cool is I have been able to co-interview several stars of the show, including Lee Arenberg, who is Grumpy, Jennifer Morrison, who's Emma, and also Raphael Sparge, who is Jiminy Cricket. And just over the past year, it's literally just been this past year that I've met all three of them and been able to interview them and tell them my story. And the light just went out, and I don't even care. I'm going to keep going on this thought, because being able to talk to them in person and talk about the show it's incredible. It's amazing, and I can't believe that that's actually been able to happen. And it's so weird being able to just be standing there and just knowing that I've been watching these people for literally 7 years on TV in a story that I never thought could connect to my life on a very, very personal level, at least not like that. And it is, and it's just so cool. It's so amazing, and you should definitely go watch all those videos and interviews and everything, because it's absolutely incredible how that's been able to happen. And at these events, just in general, over the past 3 years, I've also seen young Snow, young Emma, Sydney Glass, among many others. And it's just really, really cool to constantly have that opportunity to actually meet these people in real life, and also kind of just have that extra added element of magic within my life. Just this past week, Once Upon a Time had an event where they had screened the last 2 finale episodes, and all the cast and crew were there. And a couple days after that, I was in the exact same building for a different event, and it was another screening for a different movie. But then I was in the same screening room, and there was a moment where I just kind of sat back and realized that I was in the exact same place the last 2 hours of the show have been, where a couple days ago, literally everyone who was involved, or at least most of everyone who was involved, were also there. So it's the exact same room, the same building, and that is such an evolution of where I'm at in my life, and just the fact that the show is carried through. It used to be just a simple fun thing that I would do back home, where being this close to it would ever be real, and now it is. And there's other things too that I'm probably not even mentioning in this video, of ways that I've been able to really just be involved with the show. And come so far in regards to how the show has been able to shape my life. I want to wrap up this video that could go on forever, don't get me wrong, but just having a lot of thank yous. Thank you to my family for starting off and watching the show with me, and kind of just being able to really appreciate my appreciation, listening to all of my thoughts about it, and actually joining in on those conversations and going to Storybrooke, like all of that. I've really, really loved the support, and the fact that you understand my appreciation for the show all the way through has been amazing. And of course, I want to thank my friends, especially Ava, who had always kept it, and still to this day, like, will find different ways to make sure that I could get even more connected with the show because of my appreciation for it, and that's absolutely amazing. I say thank you to just literally everybody who has been involved with the shows, from the show runners to the writers, the cinematographers, the gaffers, like literally the storyboarders, and the composer, like everybody who's been involved with Once Upon a Time, thank you. Even the fans for just making this such a great experience and making it such a big part of my life. And I really am so thankful for this show to exist, but it really does take a village, and I believe it's a world of its own. It's more than a village, and just thank you to everybody who made this possible, because of Once Upon a Time, I've had literal dreams come true, and I've been able to realize dreams that maybe I never even thought were possible, and I've been able to have so many great experiences and moments and just waves of so much emotion and happiness. And yeah, I'm in extreme denial. It's taking a lot of effort just to film this video, just because I'm not ready for the show to end, and I know it's going to this week, and that's really sad, and I'm smiling now, but I've had quite a few cry fests already, just thinking about it ending, and the only thing that's really keeping me going through this end is knowing that it will forever live on in our hearts. And I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but it's true, and I didn't mean to cry. I'm trying not to, but it will always live on, and it'll always mean so much to me. And I believe that I'm in a place in this world now where, I don't know, maybe there's more to the story. A huge part of me believes that there could be, and that would be incredible to carry the story on in some magical way. I don't even know, but I'm just really, really glad that this show has been a part of my life, and it's existed, and for everyone who's ever watched it, just thank you.